Thank you, Pastor. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see you here. As I look around in this breakfast meeting, I see tradesmen, pastors, salesmen, teachers, and many other occupations which tend to identify each one of you by the way you make a living. Some of you are husbands, fathers, grandfathers, uncles, brothers, cousins, which clarifies your relationship. Taking it to a different level, we may be surprised to find that some of you have very strong opinions, moral standards and beliefs. And if challenged, they will be vigorously expressed, which declares your core values. And of course, your mannerisms, habits, voice, facial expressions and postures exposes your personalities. And in many ways it shows us who we are. But it does not reveal what we are capable of. I mean, how far can I push you before you resist or retaliate? It has been said that you do not know a man until you have seen him angry. Even Jesus was pushed too far when he went into the temple and was faced with the crooked money changers. So here's the question. What does it really take to bring out what is inside of you? I'm not talking about your feelings or your ego, but I'm trying the best I know how to find a switch or a mechanism that has enough voltage to explode you into action. Or remove the covering that protects you so well. Now maybe you're simply content playing an actor in a theatrical role called life, and then are prepared to continue right up until the final curtain call. Then you'll take a polite bow and exit. Well, I'm here this morning to tell you that you are better than that. We have a courageous heritage. The early heroes of our faith bravely stood their ground until the end. Stephen was stoned to death. James was beheaded. Philip was torn to pieces. Peter was crucified upside down. Luke was hung by the neck. They showed us what they were capable of, and they stood their ground. These are our heroes. How dare we surrender toward the outrages of our faith that we are daily confronted with and doing nothing about it? You know, sometimes at home I yearn to hear the words of Isaiah when it said, I heard a voice of the Lord saying, who shall I send? Who will go for us? And I said, here I am. Send me. They had volunteers. But today we do not hear the mournful wail of millions. We have ignored the words of the psalmist that says, refuge fails me that no man cares for my soul. As 80,000 babies are murdered by abortion every year in Australia under the name of Planned Parenthood. It's time, gentlemen, dare I say it's past time for us to shout loud the word stop. No more. Enough is enough. I mean, we see some people protesting in the streets seeking a change in what we call our moral absolutes. You know, the sad thing is that it's taking place totally void of any Christian challenge or response. And we're behaving as if we're on board a rat ship, where all the people want to get off before the ship sinks. I wonder, is there just one man here this morning who has the courage or the guts to stand in front of the law courts or Parliament House in our city holding up a bold sign saying our national shame, abortion, our taxes at work. Well, if one of you men did that, of course, the media would rush down there in a flash and the news would be televised around the world. And because that does not happen, it says a great deal about what we are not and covers up a great deal of what we could be. So I ask the question again, who are you? I know how you make a living. I know your relationship titles, and I know something about your personality. But there is one part of your persona that remains out of bounds even to yourself. And to find that, we have to penetrate deep into the inner sanctum of our very being. And maybe when the chips are down and push comes to shove, we men might explode into action. Or to our shame, our wives might have to do it for us. Let me give you an example. During World War II, when the Nazis were at the height of their power, they had difficulties trying to control the countries they had conquered. Well, why was that? Surprise, surprise. The timid office clerks, farmers, men and women of all walks of life formed fierce resistance groups. And under very dangerous circumstances, with great courage, they stifled, harassed, and attacked the conquerors from within, limiting their power and creating fear. Yes, these normally quiet, timid people did what they were capable of. Now, what about us? You see, I know many of you. You're good men. But I'm sure if someone physically attacked your family, I have no doubt that you would fight them off with all the venom and violence of a tomcat. And to be justifiably aroused to do that, because when pushed, you expose and act what you are capable of. And yet here we are as Christian men, we tend to remain passive and silent against the threats to our faith and discard the greatest currency we possess, which is the conditioning effect our words and actions have on other people. Gentlemen, invisible, silent resistance does not work. But if you really believe your spirit has dried up and died, then you need to know there's no prothesis for an amputated spirit. We can't rekindle something that isn't there. And in response, you may say, I still have fire in my soul. Well, the question is, does it keep anyone warm, or do they just observe the smoke? Now, I'm not here to peddle make-believe or suggest I have all the answers this morning, but it seems to me that we may have before us the dementia of the soul. We're forgetting who we are. As a group of men, if we cannot or will not become united in agreement and clarity relating to attacks upon our faith, we are doomed. We're doomed to be forgotten cause and not worthy to claim the word Christian. It's useless, the way we're behaving. Throwing slogans at problems that have never been fully segregated and quantified, then expect things to change, when the simple logic tells us that if we want change, then we must first change. Now, I'm getting a bit shaky. I have fits from time to time, and they're not very nice. So I'm not sure how many more of these meetings I'll be able to speak at. So if I get a little anxious and a little pushy, it's because whether you like it or not, or agree with it or not, the simple fact is, and God help us, you are our future. You are God's rescue squad. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the main event. Now, it takes a lot of courage to let go of the past inaction and failures, but I'm not just making a call to arms. This could be the only one that will really matter. And if you respond, it will validate your manhood. I read a lot of history. And one of the great legendary Sparta warriors said, "A city is well fortified which has a wall of men instead of bricks." You men are the protective wall of our city. And only with your permission or defeat can the enemy take control and steal our heritage. Adelaide was once called the city of churches. It's up to us to restore it. And if we're going to do that, we need to snap to attention, sound the bugle, beat the drums, clash the cymbals, ring the bells, strike the colours, and prepare for action. Because each man here this morning has the capacity to lead the charge. Yes, you might be a leader in self-imposed exile, but you are a leader. And the first thing you need to know about leadership is you do not become a leader by dominating others. You must first dominate yourself. I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of Christian men. The lament we get from them when they moan and groan, "Nobody will help me. I can't get a group together." Then go it alone. Singular leadership works, and you mean you don't have to wait for someone else to catch up. And your faith will kick into gear. You may fall down, make mistakes, endure criticism, lose friends, weep often, have doubts, make enemies and receive threats. And you'll want to give up. But there is something inside of you that will keep pushing you on further. One day, you'll take a deep breath and look behind and see the crowd of people cheering you on and realise that they are your followers. So here's the question. How can we tap into this deep reservoir, this dormant ability of power and action that we know we are capable of, and in the process cast fear and doubt aside? Well, the first thing is to accept truth. Accept the truth. We live in a world where the truth has become an unrecognisable stranger. But as Christian men, we know that truth feeds the soul, it stimulates the intellect, it directs the imagination, is the basis of all moral law. And the Bible tells me the truth will set me free. No more variables, no more conflicting arguments. I finally face the real me. I've often jokingly suggested that there is an 11th commandment, because I think I know what it would say. Do not kid thyself. Do not kid thyself. Most of us exist in the basement of our lives, or a world of make-believe. Yet we all know that deep inside of us there is something significant waiting to be released. So the first principle is to accept the truth. We are capable. We can contribute. Out there in the real world, they think we are weak. Yet the very foundation of the entire Western world has flourished under a Judeo-Christian foundation. And if we are pushed far enough, if we are stirred enough, they may reawaken a giant. Don't mess with us. We stand on the immovable, invincible, indestructible freedom of truth. The second principle is to awaken the spirit. That means that we no longer have to compare ourselves with others. Are you trying to maintain balance and not wanting to rock the boat? You can't do it. We live in a very unbalanced world. We're walking on shaky ground. It's time to let go of who we imagine ourselves to be and get real. The clock is ticking. Let us not be the generation that hears those chilling words, too late and realise we've run out of time. I think we need to revisit the words of the psalmist when it says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me." Oh, gentlemen, the Spirit is the energizer, the driving force, the hustler, the accelerator, the great incandescent flame, the joy, the searchlight, the uplifter, the comforter. And if you think you're getting in over your head, you just need to stretch and stand a little taller and rise above it. Get your spirit right. The third principle is willpower, which determines the integrity of the soul. It's a working out of truth, the fire of the Spirit, the evidence of promise, the sustenance of faith, the joy of life, the hope of all mankind, and the sweet, merciful breath of God. Now, if we think about it and combine the truth with the Spirit and willpower, you will set your soul free. And you'll create a power force without fear. And in the words of St. Thomas Aquinas, he says, the soul is known by its action. So here we are, a group of men that nobody knows anything about and expects nothing from us. It reminds me of David when he retreated into the cave with a questionable group of men, tired, confused, trying not to be discovered. And the Bible provides for us a description of these men, and this is what the Bible describes them as. Each one of them is in distress, in debt, or disconnected. Not much to start with. But with that group of men, David built an invincible army. Now, the Word of God has provided us with many examples, and we know deep inside our soul that the truth will direct us. Because when you grasp the truth of what you are capable of, then the Spirit will provide the energy, and the quality of our willpower makes us unstoppable. As a young boy, I was dyslexic. I had never passed a grade at school. I come from a broken, poor, dysfunctional family, and eventually I became a bricklayer and stonemason. All of that changed when I became a Christian 58 years ago. And through all these years, I have felt the strong, merciful, loving, correcting hand of God, who has blessed me with a wonderful wife and family. I've been privileged to travel the world, meet with heads of state, presidents of countries, and work closely with some of the greatest political, intellectual, business and spiritual giants of the 20th and the 21st century. And yes, I've been honoured by them. But I'm now an old man. And at times, like all old men, I contemplate and revisit the past. And I wanted to leave something that would stand the ravages of time and would be a testament to the God whom I worship, who has sustained me all these years. So on our country estate, I built an altar using raw, uncut stone. And I called it the Ezekiel Wall. There's a man-sized gap in the wall. And you can stand in the gap of that wall, and you are confronted with a high wooden pole with a bronze eagle with outstretched wings on the top of the pole. And at eye level there is a brass plaque with the words spoken by God just so many years ago. And this is what it says. I sought for a man among them to build me a wall, and stand in the gap before me, that I should not destroy the land, but I found none. Is this to be our epitaph? I sought for a man among them to build me a wall and stand in the gap before me, that I should not destroy the land, but I found none. Continuing on that brass plaque, I have written some other words. Gentlemen, the gap is a place where you face your fears. The gap is a place where you hear the voice of God. The gap is the place where the Holy Spirit dwells. The gap is the place of power. You know, occasionally when we have visitors, I take them to this secluded and sacred place where the Ezekiel wall stands, and I encourage them to stand in the gap. Do you understand what you are capable of and what's inside of your soul waiting to be released? Is it to be a defender of the faith, a restorer of the breach, a warrior, a hero, brave heart, a leader, or maybe start a resistance group here in Adelaide? You are capable, gentlemen. The question is, will you stand in the gap? God bless you.